Mwah. Hey, everybody. Thanks for coming. Balcony. Up there. Ladies and gentlemen, before we begin, let's have a nice round of applause for the great 92nd Street Y. Come on, let's do this. Magnificent. You know, I think it's important to note that here at the Y, all of your ticket money goes to a good cause, because I can assure you none of it goes to me. It's not for lack of trying on my part, it's just the way they do here. It's just the way it is. But so I'm sort of, I guess I'm sort of a pro bono asshole tonight. I guess that's but I want you to know that as God is my witness, I will try to be worth every cent I am being paid. I will. Are you with me on that? Do I have your support? Appreciate it. Thank you. Means a lot. So I have actually, it is an honor to be here. Some of you have probably been in this show before. I realized I have now been doing this show at the Y for like 6 or 7 years, which is kind of amazing. It's a long time. And when I tell people that, they always say the same thing. They say, why? Say, what is it about the 92nd Street Y that brings you back again and again? What makes the Y so special? And, you know, it's very simple. As a comedian, it's really important to stay in touch with what America is thinking. And the 92nd Street Y, it's like a bellwether. It's uncanny. It's like Ohio. That's what it's like. It's just amazing. I mean, just looking out at this audience tonight, this audience looks like America. If you live in Scarsdale. So. But thank you. Thank you so much for coming. And you know, when I tell people about my gig at the Y, some other people will say, but look, man, what is that doing for your career? It's not really getting you anywhere. Well, I've got some news for those haters out there. I just got my own TV show. Yes, I did. Thank you. Thank you. It's on Taxi TV. It's kind of like 60 minutes, but it's 12 seconds long. It's a good show. They offered me just this awesome time slot. I'm right on after the seatbelt reminder, you know, with Taxi Commissioner David Yaski. Are you familiar with? I am a huge fan of Yaski's work. I think he is just unbelievable in the taxi entertainment industry. He is just right up. You know what, they wanted to put me on after Sandy Kenyon's movie Minute, and I was like, fuck that shit. I am going on after Yaski or I ain't doing this show. So I won. So you have that to look forward to. That's going to be amazing. So what else is going on? Well, I just on a personal note, I just paid a visit to my hometown of Cleveland, Ohio. I was just back there. Okay. Was that for Cleveland or just for the idea of me going away in general? I couldn't tell. Some Cleveland fans? That's good. Yes, Cleveland. We're moving on to a different topic now, but no. Are you from, that young lady who shouted out Cleveland, where are you from in Cleveland? Pepper Pike. And then a man answered for you, Shaker Heights. So there's some disagreement. I think it's safe to say the truth lies somewhere in between. You're from Mayfield Heights. Okay. Anyway, I was back in Cleveland. I was checking up on a Cleveland Indians game because I think it's important to deal with loss, and I think that's an important thing in life. But it just brought back this kind of, you know, when you go home, it just brought back this, okay, please shut up now, I'm talking. It's very important. No. I'm sort of on a roll here with this Cleveland thing. It brought back so many memories because, you know, growing up in the 70s in Cleveland, people started talking about whether or not it was really politically correct to call your baseball team the Cleveland Indians. I mean, it just started becoming a thing. And I remember one guy wrote a letter to the Cleveland Plain Dealer, who was kind of upset about this, and he said, how would people feel if they called the team the Cleveland Jews? And I thought about it, I thought that would be amazing. Oh my God. And like, you wouldn't even have to change that much. You could like still call it the Tribe, you know? And like, you just tinker with the headlines a little bit. Instead of like, Tribe scalps White Sox, would be like, Tribe alters White Sox. That would be good, you know? And even like, you know, the guy Chief Wahoo, the symbol of the Cleveland Indians, he even looks kind of Jewish. If you take a look, he looks like me, right? Right? A little bit? Little bit? You get rid of the, you know, the feather and put a yarmulke on him, and you're in business. So this just seemed, you know, growing up in Cleveland, I didn't have a lot of Jewish role models, you know, so it was kind of a dream of mine. That would be an amazing thing. And one day I was about 12 years old, and I went to Cleveland Municipal Stadium, and over the PA announcement, the PA announcer guy said, playing center field for the Indians, John Lowenstein. Couldn't believe it. I mean, it was like, oh my God, it was like a Cleveland Indian who was a Cleveland Jew. It was just an incredible thing. And I wasn't the only one excited, because every time John Lowenstein got up to bat, and I'm not making this up, the organist at Cleveland Municipal Stadium played If I Were a Rich Man. And it's totally true. Totally true. It's the 70s in Cleveland, man. You could do that kind of shit. It was amazing. And everybody was really kind of into that, except actually for John Lowenstein, who complained, and he made a statement, and the reason he was unhappy about this was because he said he was not Jewish, he was German. And I was like, dude, you believe what you want to believe, but I've heard your theme song. I'm pretty sure you're part of the Tribe. But that was really like in my childhood. I was thinking about it when I was visiting. That was kind of the most exciting thing that happened in Cleveland the whole time. I said, well, one other thing that was kind of cool, and you probably read about this because it's a part of history, was that the Cuyahoga River was so polluted that it caught on fire. And that was really a memorable thing. It was a magical thing in a young boy's life to go down and see the river burn. It was just an amazing thing. And I think it really got me interested in nature, actually. It really did. And I found myself watching a lot of nature shows. There wasn't much to do in Cleveland, I'm telling you. I watched these nature shows, these documentaries, and they were always like hosted by Lauren Green, remember, from Bonanza? And I've got to warn you, I don't have a good Lauren Green imitation, but he spoke in this very deep, basso profundo voice. And they would do a show like about lions. And Lauren Green would be like, the lion, majestic, regal. He has only one known predator, man. And then the rest of the show would be devoted to how man is basically trying to fuck over lions full time. That was the thing we really wanted to do. And it was a little bit off-putting. The next week they would do something about like eagles, and Lauren Green would be on it and say, the eagle, majestic, soaring. He has never known a serious threat until now. Any guess who might have posed that threat to the eagle? Any guess at all? No, not man. Man. And I was like, around 12 watching this show, and like, after a while, I was thinking about it, when they put these TV shows together, they have to like work with advertisers and all that stuff, and it occurred to me, who did they think that the target audience for this show would be? It's like man, isn't it? I mean, I'm getting kind of a little bit pissed off. It was really confusing to me. I was confused about so many things growing up in Cleveland because my parents just were not, my parents were like super intellectuals, so I couldn't relate to them in any way. And just not helpful as parents. I remember one time, like I was in middle school, and I was at the dinner table, and I was a little bit glum, seemed down in the mouth. And my dad said, what's wrong? And I said, well, the kids at school are making fun of me. And he said, well, what are they saying? And I said, they're continuously telling me I'm queer. Now, in those days, queer just meant, uncool, square, whatever. And my dad said to me, they're not continuously telling you you're queer. They're continually telling you you're queer. Continuously would be, you're queer, you're queer, you're queer, you're queer, you're queer. Continually would be, you're queer, you're queer. So, not very helpful at all. Not very helpful at all. I did actually, to answer that young lady's question, I also grew up in Shaker Heights, Ohio. And for those of you who don't know much about Shaker Heights, it's kind of an interesting suburb. It was founded by this religious order called the Shakers. And the Shakers are known for two things. One is they're known for their incredible furniture. They made these beautiful Shaker chairs that some of you are probably familiar with. And the other thing that they're well known for is this tenet of their religion, which was that they never had sex. And growing up, my experience mirrored theirs in several key ways, except that I didn't make chairs. I didn't get into that. But I was very, very confused about sex. And I remember at one point, I must have been 4 or 5, and I asked my mom where babies came from. And my mom grew up on the Upper West Side of New York. She was very progressive, and she just believed in, telling it like it is. And she said, well, when a man and a woman fall in love, they get married, and then they go to bed together, and the man puts his penis in the woman's vagina, and then 9 months later, a baby is born. And I was like, fair enough. It wouldn't have been my first guess, but why would you make up a thing like that? It has to be true, at least on some level. But I guess I failed to ask a key follow-up question because I came away from this explanation thinking that all this transpired between the man and the woman while the couple was asleep. And it wasn't until years later that I realized that one of you has to be awake. So then I went to high school, and in high school, the way they taught sex education at Shaker Heights High was no help at all, because here's how they did it. And I'm really not making any of this up. Why would I make up any of this? On the very first day of sex ed class, we had something called a sexual inventory test. And what this meant was that the teacher handed out a sheet full of sexual terms, and then we, to the best of our ability, had to write what we thought all those terms meant, and then, without putting our names on the pieces of paper, hand them back into her, whereupon she read all of our answers aloud to the class. So you want to talk about the blind leading the fucking blind. This was someone's idea of how to teach sex, And I still remember 2 answers that the kids gave. One kid defined wet dream as when the sperms come out at night. Terrifying. That sounds like a George Romero film or something. That's horrible. And this one was actually my favorite. One kid defined menopause as the break a prostitute takes between customers. That kid was me, actually. Oh, okay, so are you ready for our show tonight? We have an interesting show. We are going to make history tonight on the 92nd Street Y stage because for the first time ever, we're going to have a panel discussion about everything except Israel. So this is never... If you wanted to hear about Israel, there are many other things in the Y catalog. As a matter of fact, every other thing in the Y catalog. So I think there's like an Israel jazzercise thing where you talk about policy on the West Bank while you do some moves. But no, we're not going to talk about Israel. That's the only thing we won't talk about. I hope that's not disappointing to you. But we're going to talk about a lot of like things going on in the news, amazing stuff going on in the news. I don't know if you just heard that the Boston police arrested 3 more suspects, right? Or as CNN called them, 11 more suspects. That was an amazing story. We'll hear more about that. And, this happened on the news right before I left. They said, big news about the royal family. And it turned out what they were saying was that I guess Kate Middleton and Prince William are already talking about having a second child. And it shows how dumb I was. And when I heard big news about the royal family, I thought one of them got a job. So I was just like way off on that. But we'll talk about, I was talking backstage and we were saying, it's tough. There's not a lot of good news going on right now, a lot of sort of scary things. So our mission tonight is to find some good news. We're going to try to do that. And we might even, is it too soon to talk about 2016, about the election? Can we talk about that? Yes? No? What do you think? How many people want to talk about that? Okay. Okay, and how many people don't want to? You see, that's what I mean. The Y is like a bellwether. We live in a divided country, and it's represented at the 92nd Street Y. Well, we might talk a little. I know it's a little bit early, but could you want to hear my predictions? I have some predictions. Okay. I am not a betting man, but I think the Democrats will nominate Hillary Clinton. I say that. And I am not a religious man, but I pray the Republicans nominate Rand Paul. I do. Okay? Are you ready for the show? Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, we have 3 stellar panelists as usual, and my first guest I want to introduce is an old friend of mine. He is a senior editor at The New Yorker. He's written some of The New Yorker's greatest editorials over the years, and you probably also have seen him on MSNBC, where it can be seen leaning forward, I believe. I love that's my favorite slogan ever. It is also, by the way, the official slogan of the rectal exam. I don't know if you knew that. It is. Like when they came up with that, like what was their second choice? Like you might feel some pressure. I don't know. It's like anyway. On that rectal exam joke, Hendrik Hertzberg. Rick? Well, if any of you are regular viewers of The Daily Show, you have my next guest to thank because she actually, in addition to being a great comedian and a great writer, co-created The Daily Show. So let's hear it for Liz Winstead. Liz! Mwah. Liz is also our one Gentile on stage tonight.
I am.
As part of our diversity outreach program at the 92nd Street Y. But she's in showbiz.
Like
you look a little bit like a Jew and you're in show business,
yeah,
so you can pass.
Yeah. 13th tribe. Everyone thinks I'm a Jew.
All right, and then finally, what can I say about this man? You've seen him on the aforementioned CNN, where he is the senior legal analyst, but he is also a best-selling New York Times author. He has now written, I believe, 17 books about the Supreme Court. Stick with a good thing. But he's also written about O.J. Simpson. He's talked about Michael Jackson. And he's a great writer for The New Yorker, a good friend of mine, Mr. Jeffrey Toobin. Go. So I just want to say this at the outset. I don't know if I referred to this in my opening remarks, but the Y serves the Jewish community. So there may be some Jews in the audience tonight. Try to tailor your remarks. If there's some Yiddish that you know, that always works well. It's a good thing. And I know, Jeffrey, you mentioned backstage that you actually have to go, you might have to leave like 5 minutes early to get to CNN.
Correct.
Because you're covering this whole thing about the new, the 3 new alleged stooges? Is that what you're calling it? The
college hijinks gone very wrong.
Gone very wrong. Now, I just wanted to say before we get into this issue, I made some very cheap remarks about CNN, and I've made a few cheap remarks about CNN for the last couple of weeks during this whole thing, and I just want you to know that when I make fun of CNN, I'm making fun of everybody there except you.
I appreciate that.
Okay? You have been exemplary in everything. But I wanted to ask you a little bit about the coverage of the Boston bombings, because that in a way became a story in addition to the bombings itself. CNN came out with some, I guess some incorrect stuff, but so did a lot of other people. What do you make of this? Is the pressure of the internet and social media all that people are saying it is? Is that forcing people to make decisions quicker? That seems like George Packer in the New Yorker yesterday was writing about that, and a lot of people have. Is that too pat an explanation?
I don't think so. I think the culture of CNN has always been to get the news first and to get it accurately. And obviously, we made a bad mistake about the arrests. We reported arrests before they'd taken place. But
and also, it offended me. You named me as a suspect.
That's
and
true.
I felt that was a low blow.
That mistakes were made.
And then you called me Zoe Deschanel for some reason, which didn't. Anyway, go ahead.
But I don't really think it is driven by social media in particular. I think that kind of pressure has always been there. I think the pressure to beat the other cable networks, the pressure to beat the broadcast networks. I don't think of Twitter and Facebook as particular rivals.
What about Pinterest? No, not a problem.
Not them either.
Okay.
What was so terrible about that mistake that CNN made? Didn't you just say that somebody got arrested? Was that the mistake?
No.
Well, that was, yeah. I mean, when the answer is nobody got arrested,
somebody did get arrested later, so they were just early.
Right, right.
I mean, it was good.
That's true. It wasn't like we named someone.
Right.
I mean,
like the New York Post.
Rick, I guess your journalistic standard is if it could have been worse, it's not so bad. Which I appreciate, but
Actually, the Washington Post actually wrote basically that article.
What did they say?
They basically said if it couldn't be worse, what Rick said. And I was just excited after watching, weeks of the poop cruise. I was wondering how excited they were at CNN when they found the guy in the boat. If it was just like, oh my God, it's a boat. We love boats.
That's a great, that actually, if you could get James Earl Jones to record the new slogan for CNN, "It could have been worse." That would actually that would be kind of good. Yeah. That would be.
He's back actually.
Is he back?
Well, his voice is back. One of the things our new boss Jeff Zucker has done, which I think is great, is this is CNN. That had sort of disappeared into disuse, and he's back.
That's going to fix everything. That's a good idea.
Baby steps.
It is baby steps. Well, that's good. It's an easy target, which is why, of course, I gravitate to it. I just sort of felt like, as somebody who does fake news, I felt CNN was encroaching on my territory, and so, it's a branding issue for me more than anything else. I don't want to belabor the point, but
you already have.
I have for the last 10 years, I should say. But Rick, are you, I mentioned that George Packer was sort of demonizing social media. I thought he wrote a very interesting piece for the New Yorker website yesterday. But do you feel, as an editor of the New Yorker, are you sensing that, like, the speeding up of the media is a bad thing? Is it affecting the quality of life as a journalist?
It's
or?
definitely affecting that. I don't know
Yeah.
what other effects it's having, but just trying to learn Twitter, it's been I wouldn't go so far as to say it's a nightmare. I just don't really know how to do it. I have to tweet. I tweet and tweet and tweet. But I'm not actually sure what I'm doing.
Well,
I don't know I don't know the difference really between the @ thing and the little
Hashtag.
thing.
Hashtag.
And I don't know. And when you're doing a tweet, how do you know what you should put with the hashtag? Do you?
Yeah, I can explain this
Could
to
you be a little less of an old Jew,
Yeah.
please? It's like,
This is actually,
In
by the
my
way,
day, Jeffrey.
it's like the VCR, the 12 is always flashing. Learn the damn thing. It's not that hard, for God's sake.
It's only 140 characters.
suddenly I feel we're like at the learning annex. It's like, and really sometimes my computer freezes, and I don't know. Liz, you tweet quite a bit.
I
You
am.
do.
I do tweet quite a bit.
But do you, you see, I feel like as comedians we're off the hook because fast is always better. Like it's like we don't have to check anything. We can make any kind of wild accusations about anything and it's fine.
Yeah.
But we do. I feel like for the purposes of contrast, I want the real news to actually do their jobs well, because if it's just everybody's a jackass, then what's the fun of it?
Well, not to keep belaboring CNN, but it is
I
frustrating.
actually think this would be a good topic for the whole hour.
Yes.
Because Jeff Scene's game.
Yeah.
But you're watching
I'm rubber.
CNN and there's a story and they're like, tweet us what you think. And I'm like, I don't want to know what people on Twitter think. I actually want to know the facts. And one of my least favorite segments is you pick the story. And I was actually watching, and this is true. They said, you pick the story. Here are the 2 stories you get to pick from. The progress of Afghani women's rights.
No, wait, this is on
CNN.
CNN? I'm sorry.
Yeah, the progress of Afghani women's rights, or bride trapped in an elevator. And
Can I predict who won?
When the tweets came rolling in, bride trapped in an elevator was the clear winner.
Well, I'm like sort of nostalgic for the days when like the TV news picked the story, because
Yes!
that was
the
sort of their.
reporters, yeah.
Isn't that like that's being like, and it's actually not even.
Yeah.
It's not even a CNN thing, but that's just kind of a whole like crowdsourcing ideas. It's in a way like the most sort of cowardly, but also pandering thing, because it's like saying, you, a viewer, or you, an internet user, you do our jobs for us because you're so awesome.
Right.
And I just think, I don't know if that really is advancing us. I actually kind of like to watch, C-SPAN. I actually enjoy that because it's kind of just, we're actually watching something happen. It's incredibly tedious, of course, but it's like it's not like saying, half the time, you're watching on cable, and it's like, as Syria devolves into crisis, when is Jennifer Aniston getting married? It's like that's the thing. It's like always that need to pump it up. So anyway.
The White House Correspondents' Dinner was great on C-SPAN.
Oh, really? Oh, you mean just watching it?
Just
on
watching
C-SPAN?
it, yeah. No commentary, no nothing. Just sort of panning and there's so and so.
Did you have trouble finding it on your remote, Rick? Because I know you were having some issues. Did you?
It's on my faves.
Oh, okay. That's good. That's good. So in the search of some good news, we haven't really found, have we found any good news about the media and all this, or is there anything positive? Yeah, what's that?
The New York Review of Books is still in business and making money.
Okay, well,
That is good.
that's good. I'm not familiar with that publication. What is that? It's about books per se? Okay.
Sort of, yeah.
All right, that's good. Well, that's good news. Okay, so our work is done. We did find some good news. That's very good. So since you're going to have to leave early to cover this story of the Boston suspects, what do we know, just so we can maybe get a little sneak peek here?
Well, 3 fellow students at UMass Dartmouth, a school that has not had a lot of good publicity over the past couple of weeks, were arrested basically for all doing the same thing in slightly different ways. Is that in the period after the bombing, but before the 2 brothers were caught, getting rid of stuff in the younger brother's room that could be incriminating, a backpack that had sort of empty explosives in it, and then lying to the authorities about it, all three of them. Two of them are Kazakhs, and one of them is an American.
In your opinion, as a senior legal analyst, are they guilty? Folks, huge time saver right here. Let's just bear with me. What do you think? I think the Kazakhs sound suspicious. Because when they talk, we don't know what they're saying.
That's actually part of the defense. The lawyer for the American, honest to God, came out and said, the other two kept speaking in Russian. He didn't know what they were talking about at all.
That's good.
But they do not seem like the craftiest criminals in the world. Because if you think that this was a kind of low-profile case where no one would notice if you were getting rid of the evidence, like the evidence of explosives that were at the Boston Marathon.
Right.
I think the idea that you could have done that in a kind of low-profile way was perhaps an error in judgment on the part of the three suspects.
Well, that's interesting. We'll have to see how that plays out. But we'll,
The very good use of a cable news-ism. We'll have to see how that plays out.
No, the one that I really love
big
is, my favorite one is Gentlemen, We'll Have to Leave It There. Because my dream, and I'll just share this with you, and maybe you can talk to Zucker about this, because he could maybe make this happen. I know there are probably not a lot of people in this audience who believe that Jesus is going to come back. But he was a nice Jewish boy, so hear me out for a second. If Jesus ever does come back, my fantasy is that on CNN there'll be a split screen with Jesus and Satan. And that they'll argue good versus evil for 3 minutes. And then like Don Lemon or somebody will say, well, gentlemen, we'll have to leave it there. I just feel like that'd be great. And equal time, balance.
That's how we do it.
Balance, MSNBC would just have Satan, probably. I mean, in all fairness.
And CNN would Chiron Jesus Zooey Deschanel.
It's true. Okay, so that does it for that. But we're not going to get into 2016 just yet, but I want to talk a little bit about the president's term so far. We're into the second term, and I guess he's had his, mainly downs so far, would you say? Any ups? Rick, what is your assessment so far of term 2 for Obama?
Well, it's better than the alternative.
Well, we know that.
Term 1 for Romney.
Right. Even day 1 for Romney sounded terrifying, so yeah, it's true.
But I don't know how he could do all that much better. I mean, the theory that it's because he doesn't stand up for things and he doesn't schmooze enough and all that, I think that is just, I don't think that's nonsense, really.
Right.
The problem is the filibuster.
That one person from Shaker Heights like that, remember? That's good. The filibuster.
The filibuster is the problem. Right. The malapportionment of the House is the problem. The system is the problem. And he has to live with it.
Well, and I also think that the biggest political development of our lifetime is the change in the Republican Party. That there used to be a core of Republican moderates who were genuinely moderate. You also had conservatives like Howard Baker, like Bob Dole, who were interested in legislating. And they're all gone. And the party is now very much...
Made up of orcs.
That's one word. But
they're very orc-like.
And I think that when you combine the filibuster needing 60 senators with such a determined group of opponents, and it's just nothing happens.
Yeah, political scientists were always saying in the 60s and 70s, wouldn't it be great if we had coherent political parties like they have in Europe? Well, be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, now
we've got one coherent political party, and then we've got one traditional political party that has a spread of people, that has different kinds of people in it, and it ain't working. It's seriously not working.
But I wonder...
And it's not going to get a lot better real soon.
Okay, this isn't the theme of good news I'm searching for, but I do think, it is very kind of naive and maybe it's disingenuous on some people's part when they say, we don't have gun control because President Obama hasn't been tough enough. There's a Republican House, and then there are all these Democratic cowards who like go along with the Republicans because they're in these sort of.
Well, they're all cowards.
Well, that's true.
I mean,
That's true.
democracy has to be built on the idea that people are weak, people are flawed. And you can't have a system that depends on suicidal behavior by politicians in order to get anything done.
Right.
But that's what we got.
Although in a way, I think that the Republicans show a certain amount of courage in that they kind of, to me, resemble the punk rockers of the 1970s, in that they're almost becoming like nihilistic. It's like they're like, in a way, driving off a cliff. Because really, like with something like gun control, where the polls consistently show that 90% of the public, well, not consistently, but let's say the majority of the public, the lion's share of the public feels one way, and yet they are so determined to toe this very kind of what I would consider an extremist reading of the Second Amendment and go to town with that. Can that end well for the Republicans? I mean, Jeffrey, what do you think?
Well, again, I mean, this is, I know, a favorite theme of Rick's, which is that when you have when you have the House so gerrymandered that the Republicans have much more to fear from Republican primaries than they do from Democrats, that puts a premium on being in the most extreme part. So there is a core of the Republican Party that really does believe in this extremist view of the Second Amendment. They vote in primaries. So if you want to keep them happy, it is a rational decision for them to continue to oppose gun
If it was
control.
a secret ballot, if the senators could vote by secret ballot, gun control would pass by 2/3.
Right.
I don't think there's any doubt about that.
If this were on TV right now, the subtitle would be "We're fucked," by the way, just so you know. Just so you know what we're talking about.
It gets worse, Andy.
It gets worse?
Yeah.
I don't like the direction. How does it get worse than this?
It gets worse this way, that the House, it's not just gerrymandering, it's for demographic reasons. For the Democrats to win the House in the midterm election, they would have to win the overall vote by 10 points. 10 points. Just to get a one-seat majority in the House. And that's more than double Obama's margin. That's not going to happen. And in a midterm election, the president, the party that has the presidency, generally loses votes anyway.
Well, there's got to be a way out of this somehow. I mean, here's what I hope
Military
for.
coup.
Military coup would work. Drones. One possible,
Well-armed militia? Oh, wait.
No, that doesn't work. There's, what about, I mean, to me, a glimmer of hope is somebody like Ohio. I mean, I'm from Ohio, I know, I keep harping on that, but Ohio's own Rob Portman, who changed his view on same-sex marriage because his son came out as gay. So I think what we just have to do is get to the children of all of these guys and turn them, like say, look, guns are really bad and, stuff like that. And then because then their parents will just do it because it's in their own backyard and they'll reverse it. Is that a possibility, or is that because I've been working very hard?
Well,
on
what
that.
would be great is if they also had kids who were undocumented workers and poor people, because then
Some
we
of them
really
may. I mean, I
get
think Newt
going.
Gingrich probably.
But
does. I think on some level,
my hope anyway is that the crazy way that they amp up this rhetoric that is so fear-based and it never comes to fruition, and that no one's taking anybody's guns and no one's closing down people's churches. And I think when people finally realize that these people have scared them into a place of things that aren't going to happen, eventually they're going to need some things to happen. They need a stronger education system. And I'm from Minnesota, and I was very happy to watch
No applause for Minnesota? Come on.
And I was very happy to
Thank you.
watch. They tried to put the one man, one woman marriage into their constitution this year on the ballot, and the people of Minnesota said, you know what, we're not doing it. And because they're that practical stock of people who may not be, they're kind of like, well, I don't know if I really like two guys together, but I don't want to be a jerk about it. Right? And I think that kind of mentality prevails in the bigger sense
Right.
of America. But I think that sadly they need to realize that these people who are their leaders aren't making them any promises.
That's good news, isn't it?
Yeah, I was going to
Well,
say,
I
I
mean,
think same-sex marriage is
Yeah,
good
I mean,
news.
I actually think
Yeah.
we finally struck gold on the good news front here,
Right.
which is that the gay rights movement generally has made progress in sort of the larger scheme of American history at the fastest pace that I think of any civil rights movement has. I mean, one of the facts that was always cited before the 2012 election was that same-sex marriage, anytime it's ever been on the ballot for the voters, has lost. Well, not only didn't it win in Minnesota, it won in Washington, it won in Maine, and won in Maryland. And the polls have moved at an astonishing pace. Now, obviously, we're going to wait for big Supreme Court decisions about same-sex marriage, but almost, not entirely, but almost those decisions are irrelevant because the country is moving so fast on that issue.
And what do you think? All right. People are...
There you go. Right?
Everyone's in a good mood. So we've got one good one. That's good.
Yeah, that's
but
good.
But I'm curious about that, you know, as our president used to say, as a teachable moment. What can we gain from that? Why did this sea change happen, and why so quickly? Any guesses?
I mean, I think, you know, if you want to be a little cynical about it,
I do.
The homosexuality being what it is, rich people have gay children, Republicans have gay children. They tend not to have poor children. So you have you have a sort of built-in constituents. I mean, like the Rob Portman example. You know, I mean, I think it's great that Rob Portman, you know, came out in support of same-sex marriage. You know, there is something a little less admirable about the fact that you can't see the justice of something unless your kid asks you about it, and I think, but you know, allies wherever they are good.
If he's an advocate, that's really going to be the test. You know, Rob Portman comes out and he's a hero for a week, and my son, and I get it, but Rob Portman really needs to step up, you know, and say, look, you know, we all know this. I mean, I just hosted the PFLAG Awards, and you know, Paul Tagliabue gave the awards away to those to Chris Cluey and to Brendan. I can't pronounce his name. That amazing guy from the Baltimore Ravens, who are big marriage equality advocates. And you know, it was like, wow, he was the commissioner of the NFL, and here he is, and he's got I think a gay daughter, and it was like awesome to, you know.
Well, and we have this week Jason Collins, the NBA player, and you know, it's not just that he came out. I mean, the reaction really kind of made your heart sing.
Right.
And you had all these players, you know, tweeting their best wishes, which Rick didn't understand, but it was really a good. It was a good thing.
That was the hashtag.
Yeah, it was like
Rick, we'll do a printout of it later and give it to you. It'll be good.
Anyway, it was. I thought it was really a wonderful moment.
The ones who really deserve the credit for all this are all those gay people who come out over these years.
Right.
That's what made the biggest
difference. And the two, actually, who I think I thought of a lot were Billie Jean King, who was outed against her will, and Martina Navratilova, who came out in 1981 at a time when the risks were really great, and their courage and integrity and fortitude is a wonderful thing to think about.
It's funny, though, that there's still... I hate to be cynical, but you know, it's like we have made so much progress, and yet I still feel like there's all this kind of unconscious bias that people still need to get over. Because this is true. I was listening to WNYC this morning, and they were playing what they intended to be a heartwarming segment where they were covering some local baseball team and asking them, like high school kids or college kids, I remember, and they were asking them, you know, how they felt about the whole Jason Collins thing. And to a man, they were all extremely supportive and said, look, it's just about, if you're a good player, you know, we don't care, you know, it's like, but then they had one kid who said, you know what, like if a guy's a good player, I don't care if he's a space alien with things growing out of his head, I'm for him. And I thought, you know, that's really not the same thing as a gay person, actually. But I understood. I thought the sentiment.
He understood the point.
He understood the point. It was good. But anyway. But I mean, I guess so. This is a positive news. And you know what? To cut the Republicans a break, many of them are in favor of gay people having guns. So I mean, that's. if we can just sort of slide that over somehow.
If you can have a gun while you're getting a transvaginal probe, I think we're in business.
That's right. That's right. Transvaginal probes for everybody. That's great. Well, okay, now I guess the other big story, this is going to be not a good news story, but one that we have to talk about a little bit because it's just another thing that President Obama has to deal with or has been trying not to deal with, is this issue of Syria. There's this there's an audible gasp from the audience. There's this, he was talking about the red line, the red line of chemical weapons, and now we think maybe there were chemical weapons there. Is there, I was hearing actually a Syria expert, there are such things. I was hearing a Syria expert saying this is like just an insane civil war. There's like no role for the United States in this that's going to be good. I'm still kind of wondering why we're still in Afghanistan personally. I mean, just because, I don't know if you saw that movie Zero Dark 30, but like I think we got bin Laden at some point in that film. And I feel like unless that was made up, I feel like it's time to probably get out of Afghanistan. But I could be wrong. Is Obama, what's Obama going to do? What's Obama to do, Rick?
Well, not get us into another war. I think he understands very well. There's no appetite for it
Right.
in the American public, in left, right, or anywhere else.
Actually, the polls show that Americans don't even really want to talk about foreign policy anymore, kind of period. They're really, it's interesting, 11 or 12 years after 9/11, foreign policy is like...
Well, maybe that's because the war has been going on for 11 or 12 years.
Yeah. No, it is.
And people understandably see that it has not exactly been a roaring success,
No.
and this is even putting aside Iraq, which was a complete disaster and a much more costly war in every respect.
And when you, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
What? No, I'm just trying to figure out a way to mine comedy gold from this
I
subject.
know,
From
there's
Syria.
not a lot.
I brought it up. Syria, chemical weapons. It's my specialty. My question is strategically, what can or will Obama do? I mean, he seems to be right now kind of moving the goalposts as far away from himself as possible, and sort of like doesn't really want to.
He made a mistake, I think, in drawing that red line, and he's a victim partly of the whole confusion about what is a weapon of mass destruction. The whole idea of WMDs was really kind of dreamed up as a way of making a gas canister the equivalent of a nuclear bomb, and a little bit of poison gas goes a long way rhetorically. I don't completely understand why it's necessarily a weapon of mass destruction, but he's going to have to do something. He's going to have to appear to do something, but the people who are demanding that he do something are generally fall silent or confused when they have to explain just what it is they want him to do.
But isn't that also sort of a false assumption? He has to do something. He said there's a red line, and it's been crossed. So what if he doesn't do anything? Other than John McCain and Lindsey Graham, who are going to be, always urging like more wars. Why does he have to? He'll just not do anything, and I don't think.
If there's a gas attack that kills 10,000 people in some Syrian city, that's when something will have to be done.
This sounds to me like one of those tough decision points that a president has to face. And there's this great new museum in Dallas that deals with just this kind of thing. So maybe his advisors could go to Decision Points Theater and figure it out. I love, by the way, just if I can, this is sort of comic relief since I realized Syria was a terrible thing to talk about.
That's all right.
I just felt it was my obligation to talk about the Middle East at the Y. But that I loved the whole spectacle of the Bush Museum opening and Decision Points Theater, because the whole point of this museum seemed to be to show how hard it is to be president, that it's really tough. And I was just trying to think of like would Winston Churchill or Teddy Roosevelt come out and said, I want you to know it was murder having to decide what to do. And that's seems almost like the opposite of leadership. Like, why would you do a whole monument to your presidency to just show what a hard time you had?
Well,
it just seems weird.
I feel
it was honest.
But don't you feel like you hear that all the time from politicians? Remember when the health care bill came out and everybody screamed that it was 25 pages long? It was like, you were elected to read shit and write shit. That is your job. That is the very, and if you do not like that, then maybe you should curate the Bush Museum, for example, would be a job.
Did you have an alternative idea for how to do a museum of the successes of the Bush presidency? I mean, that's,
Well,
yeah.
I would have maybe made it a pavilion at Disney World. And, like just like the teacups or something, just change the subject. Also, you know what? Yes, I do. He is a superb painter. And you could have done a great museum of just his painting.
The one thing from the interviews with him that a couple weeks ago, he said, and I heard him say this, he paints 2 or 3 hours a day. Really? I mean, that's an amazing amount of time
but
to
you
be
see,
painting.
this is one of the tragedies that he didn't pursue painting. This is like, this comes up time and time again in our history. I won't refer to like another world leader who wanted to be a painter, but there was another guy a few years ago. Google it. But no, I mean, it's just, he has found his passion. It's a great thing. And you know what? I've got to say, he's not a bad painter. I mean, especially compared to other pursuits he has had in his life. He's pretty good. He's got kind of a David Hockney touch.
Yeah,
I would buy a Bush. I would. I think they're good. I like them.
It's fine.
Wouldn't it be really disappointing if it found out that Cheney was painting them all this time? Oh, man. What a drag. But I decided on the brush. That'd be bad. Well, I think we found some good news. He opened a museum. He's enjoying painting. That's good.
Is it really a museum I mean, I guess it's
it
more
is
like
a museum.
It just seems like a storage space a little bit to me, like a fancy storage unit with some stuff in it.
It's a museum.
Okay.
It's a museum. They're doing a lot of stuff. They just invaded the Dallas Museum of Art, and that was a good thing. Admission accomplished. They put a big banner. Sorry. Goodness. It's getting late.
ladies and germs.
Yeah, ladies and germs.
Yeah.
All right, so, so second term, guns, probably nothing's going to happen because of the preponderance of fascists. Okay, we figured out that. So probably nothing on guns.
The AK-47.
But gay marriage looking, same-sex marriage looking good. Marijuana looking kind of good, right?
Looking very good.
Okay,
yes.
so that's good news.
In Washington, and I mean, it's really actually fascinating what's going to happen in Washington and Colorado, because in the voters passed laws legalizing it, and I'm going to do a New Yorker story on this.
For recreational use.
Complete legalization. Now, assuming they can keep the federal government at bay because it is still illegal under federal law, they are going to have to decide how it's sold, and there are a million decisions about where can it be sold, in what quantities can be sold, where can you get it.
Now there's a display for the Bush Museum.
There you go. That's right.
Have they even decided what the legal age is?
No, they haven't. I mean, all that stuff has to be decided. Yeah, and who can grow it and where.
Potheads never make any decisions. They're never. It's going to be the biggest disaster ever. They're just going to be like, oh man.
Well, the lobbyists from Frito-Lay are all over this.
Yeah.
It's been really ugly. They make the NRA look lame.
Yeah.
That's why they wanted to get that pizza as a vegetable thing passed now.
Well, so that's good. Okay, now I'm feeling better because now we've got gays, marijuana. The country is starting to feel more like my kind of place where I'll be happy.
I actually think it is probably going to happen that there will be an immigration bill, which will that's a good thing.
Tell us what will that be like? I mean, because I know there's been a lot of, some Republicans are saying it would be good for them to take ownership of the immigration issue, and then others are terrified that if you legalize 9 million immigrants, then you have 9 million more Democrats.
Democrats,
So
right.
that's, Let's hope
Which
so.
is,
That's all I can say.
That political calculation is exactly what's going on. But and in fairness, George Bush was way ahead of his party on this issue and tried to do something helpful about it during his presidency, which he failed at. But it does seem possible that there will be some sort of path to citizenship for the 11 million, 13 million, whatever it is, people who are here, not to mention their kids. And I think that would be a good change for the country.
But it'll be a long time before
Yeah,
any of them
75
actually
years.
vote.
Right. I mean, I think 11 or 13 years are the calculate. But at the moment they have nothing, and they're could be chased out of the country at any point. So that seems like a worthwhile trade-off. Yeah.
Well, I have a few. We're going to take some questions live from the audience because I always feel that's a little bit more dynamic than reading off of cards. But some people took the effort to write down some questions on cards. And what do we think, folks? Should we read some of these and then open it to the floor? Is that cool with you guys? I make up the questions? What am I? Is this Fox News? What are you talking about? Like I make up everything? It's like, it's so funny. That was so funny, like during the whole Boston bombing thing, they were talking about like the networks competing with each other, and it's like CNN, and I forgot that Fox was in the mix. Like I think of like Fox competing with like the Sci-Fi Channel or something. It just doesn't. Okay. Oh, okay. Well, this is a good segue to another segment. I am sounding like I'm on CNN, aren't I? Somebody says comments on Chris Christie's political future. I remember we were sitting here, well, not all of us, but about a year ago, and somebody from Susie Essman was here, and somebody from the audience asked, does Chris Christie scare you? And Susie immediately said, only at a buffet. I have to just, it was sitting there, but she was so fast I had to, let's talk about this crew of candidates that's looming in 2016. Chris Christie, what do we feel about him? Is he a force to be reckoned with, or what do we think?
He's a force to be reckoned with, but a Republican nomination for president, I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is an example of how the party is marginalizing itself. I think, at least in theory, and it's very hard. One of the things that I think we journalists, a mistake we all make, is we underestimate simply how difficult it is to run for office, especially president. A lot of people look good on paper, and they just simply can't pull it off. He, I think, looks good on paper, but I also think just the Republican Party is too conservative for him. That particularly when you're talking about primary voters, he's just not. He just doesn't have. He's just too conservative.
And he wasn't invited to CPAC this year. They snubbed. They even invited Romney, who they despise. So
right.
If you invite Romney but you don't invite Chris Christie, what does that say? They just don't like him.
But do you remember what they said, why they didn't invite him?
What did they say?
They said they were really looking to find the people who were the future of the party.
Aha.
And it was like, wow. And then Sarah Palin shows up. Honestly.
But he will be reelected governor of New Jersey by like 80% or something like that. He'll be,
right.
And he will be out there because of that. Mm-hmm. And they will have to emphatically, affirmatively reject him. They won't be able to just ignore him.
What do you think? This is something what do you think about his weight as a political issue? I mean, he's not.
I think it's an unspoken for constituency that he represents. No.
Well, and it is a growing constituency in every sense.
But don't you kind of? I mean, what I sort of feel like the thing that people like, if you just focus on the health issue, and what you guys know better than I is just how hard it is to run for president, and when you are not in some kind of physical shape that is of decency. You know, you always see people get grayer, they put a little weight on because you're eating all that stuff. I just don't know how somebody who is carrying that much weight could deal with the rigor of what that means. It seems really exhausting.
Have you ever seen him in person?
No.
It's kind of amazing.
Yeah.
He's not like the rest of us mortals, could lose a few pounds. I mean, he is very,
He's a very
large.
big
Okay,
large.
but you know what? If he dropped 200 right before he ran, he would be elected in a landslide because you know what America loves? Weight loss.
Yeah, they do.
I swear, You watch TV, all of American television is divided between two genres, cooking food and losing weight. Those are the only two shows. If he just got him for the first debate and he looked like, he'd shrunk down to like Ron Paul size, he would be like elected president.
But then he would have headlines that said the biggest loser everywhere, and it just would be like a disaster.
I'm telling you. I'm telling you, he would. But we've had fat presidents. I mean, Grover Cleveland, right?
But it wasn't the age of where you have to go constantly. He's on a train and he's waving. I mean,
right.
Look at Wilson. He was like puppet and he was in the shadows and, the wife had all that set up. He was fooling people and he was like laying there not saying anything and his wife was calling all the shots. So we don't live in that age anymore.
Okay, so you're saying the weight would be an issue. You think it's a problem?
I think it would be a problem for him stamina-wise. I think that people would, maybe people secretly would go, I'm not voting for that guy, he's fat, but I think more for him personally, just doing it, I think it would be really, really hard.
Okay, well, let's just discuss these candidates in terms of how fat they are. Because now you guys have made a persuasive case that's really the only thing that matters. So I feel like Jeb Bush could drop 20. He's like a little jowly, and I just don't trust him. Like at 3 a.m. when that call comes, he's like in the fridge getting a snack, and I just don't.
He's making the calls at 3 a.m.
So he is so over now. Now I feel like Rubio has enough to eat, but he's thirsty, and that's a problem. Because you don't want a guy who's just like, and so my friends, it's just a bad look. It's a bad optics, as we say in politics. What do we think about Rubio? Was like so hot, like he was going to be the dude, and then he took a drink of water. We are the worst. We are the worst country in the world. He's fucking hydrating, and we want to crucify him for that. Like, aren't we 90% water or something? We need water. Sorry.
Don't you think though, like I think another part when I observed this Republican Party, and it didn't start, but when it was revealed that Barack Obama was going to be the presidential candidate, and the Republicans said, well, Hillary's gone, let's get Sarah Palin and she'll take some of those women voters. Like it was an insult to women to think that we would vote for that asshole over Hillary. They just thought we would. And then you look at Marco Rubio and you go, he's a Hispanic with horrible Republican ideas. So he's still just a person with horrible ideas. And they're like, oh, he'll be great.
Well, this is, just for my world, remember, one of the reasons that George Herbert Walker Bush nominated Clarence Thomas to the Supreme Court was that, African Americans will African Americans can tell what people's positions are as well as just see what race they are, and that make the judgments. Yeah, apparently, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like the whole thing, because we enjoy Domino's pizza, we're going to vote for a guy who is the head of Godfather's Pizza, which is terrible pizza. Like, you would never do that.
Had you ever had a during
I've never had Godfather's Pizza.
I don't think I have ever had Godfather's Pizza. I believe in slumming, but as Domino's is as low as I go.
Have you even seen a Godfather's Pizza outlet?
I don't think they're in the Northeast.
They may not exist.
They're not around here.
Yeah.
Herman Cain is not. He's not going to be in the mix in 2016. He's not. I actually, I didn't have so much a problem with the fact that he was running the pizza chain, because I like pizza, and I think pizza people should be involved in politics, just like the rest of us. I guess the fact that he didn't seem to know what the 3 branches of government were, I think that to me was more of a demerit for him. I mean, that was the thing, like the last time around, because we had an incumbent president on the Democratic side, we had this kind of clown car of, Rick Perry and, him and, Newt Gingrich was coming back from the 90s. I thought like, oh my God, is like Chumbawamba gonna come back? I mean, it's like unbelievable. They got down and they got up again, and I just wonder, like this time.
No one in this audience knows who Chumbawamba is. Can I
that
just
girl
tell you
from
that?
Shaker Heights?
That's right. Yeah.
Homegirl knew. Google it, 92nd Street Y. It's hilarious. But anyway, okay. Anyway, this time around, I mean, you never want to run against the incumbent because it's such an uphill thing, and so only, Mitt Romney actually really thought he had a a shot.
But the party, what I was always fascinated with was the party just watched the worst of their party representing them and ultimately defining them. And that was the part that was astounding to me. I mean, there was not a sane person in the bunch.
No,
Yes,
I,
there
I,
was.
don't think, I don't
There
think
was
that's.
one.
Oh yes, John Huntsman.
Oh, yes, of course, John Huntsman, but Mitt
Romney.
Romney.
But then he had to act crazy. He had to.
Well,
I
but
mean, he
that's-
was trying to act
but
regular.
that's-
he
but
said he
that's-
was severely conservative.
Yes.
That's like psoriasis.
Mitt
or something.
Romney, the one who was elected governor of Massachusetts, the moderate,
Right.
pro-choice, pro-gay rights, he might actually have won the presidency,
Right.
but he couldn't have gotten the Republican nomination. So
Right.
that was the paradox.
Right.
And one reason why your optimism about immigration reform might not pan out is because everybody else, every other Republican in the Senate wants to see that go down. Because when it goes down, Marco Rubio goes down, and they come up.
Well, Rick, I work in cable news, so faulty predictions don't matter at all.
Bread and
I work
butter.
in a business with no accountability. So,
Well, this is a very good segue to another question that one of our Y audience members actually posed to you, Mr. Jeffrey Toobin. And this is right in your wheelhouse. I believe you're familiar with the goings-on of the Supreme Court.
I hope. Try.
What are the odds of, like, who might step down in the next 3+ years, and who might Obama be looking to promote?
Well, I have a emphatic answer to that. I think Ruth Ginsburg will leave in the next 2 years. She just turned 80. She's in very good shape, notwithstanding the fact she's had a lot of health problems. But I think she recognizes the politics of the situation, that she wants to make sure Obama has the seat. And I think her successor will be Sri Srinivasan, who is currently the Deputy Solicitor General of the United States, will be confirmed shortly, I think, as a judge of the D.C. Circuit, which is a court that has sort of been a Supreme Court farm team for a long time. He's in his late 40s. He's young by Supreme Court nominee standards. He's an Indian American, which would be a different ethnic group.
That's
for the
fun.
first.
That would be good.
Right?
Yes.
Fun.
Jeffrey, couldn't there?
Spicy.
Why is there never a non-lawyer?
Why is there never a
Why
what?
is there never a non-lawyer on the court? Shouldn't there be a non-lawyer on there?
I know. I mean, Rick was one of the great crusaders for Anthony Lewis to be on the Supreme Court of blessed memory, which I think is a great idea. I am a lawyer, but I am also available. So I'm just saying. But I'm not.
I think if
hardly
you
have much
wanted
hope.
somebody like with a lot of judging experience, but not a lawyer, I would go with Jennifer Lopez. Also Hispanic.
Hispanic, right? That's true.
Joan Rivers, very judgy on
Yeah,
those red
very
carpets.
judgy.
Yeah.
That'd be good. That would be good. There are a lot of
So-
options.
You'd have to have Melissa with her.
Yeah, true. Sad.
She could be the clerk.
So we'll get one. I say we, but so Obama will probably get one pick.
Correct.
One more pick.
I think, yeah.
Okay, well, so that's good news too,
Okay.
right? I mean,
If-
for
if-
this
if
crowd,
you choose
if you
to
like
see it as-
Obama,
But the
how
one
many people
question-
like Obama in this audience? Okay, that's good news for them.
But can I? What is this person's name?
Who the
Sri-
Sri Srinivasan.
Okay, so Sri Srinivasan. Yeah, that's a yoga pose, isn't it? Also.
Downward judge. Yeah.
On the political scale, is Shri to the? Is he? It seems like everyone's going to just be
I
more
like that you're
moderate.
calling him Shri because you're not even going to try the last name. That's good.
No,
It's so
that's why I don't want to
Shri-
talk about Boston at all. Those I can't say anybody's name.
Right.
But so to the same apropos politically as Ginsburg, more to the conservative.
It's very hard to tell. In the same ballpark. I mean, we can usually have a good sense of what a justice will be like on the court. There's sort of this mythology that justices surprise the presidents, but that hasn't been true for decades. And so I think he would be a Democratic appointee. His precise view on every issue, I couldn't tell you.
Okay.
What about the 5 Republicans? Is it possible that one of them will
Well,
depart?
at that would have to be a health issue because the justices are very candid about this. They don't want to have a president replace them with someone who would try to undo their life's work. Justice Scalia is 77, Justice Kennedy is 76, so, do the math. It's possible, but I would think unlikely.
And one of those Catholics. There's like how many Catholics? 7?
6.
Wow.
But 3 Jews.
Yeah.
No Protestants, first time in history.
Wow.
Well, Jeffrey,
Protestants have had a good run, though, you got to
No, they
admit.
They
have.
have. They have. Not at the Y per se, but they have. Jeffrey, you have to go on TV, and we need some solid professionals at CNN holding down the fort. So
yes.
we want to bid you farewell and thank you. So
Thank
let's
you,
hear it
thank
for.
you.
Thanks so much, Jeffrey Toobin. Okay, the rest of tonight's program will be devoted to talking about Jeffrey Toobin. No.
Let's really shit on CNN.
Let's bring Let's bring the house lights up, and I'd like to. Oh, this is a good-looking crowd. Let's take some. We have about 10 minutes to take some of your
Jeffrey
questions.
Toobin's fans are all leaving.
Take some of your questions live. So, I'll call you and you shout them out, sir. Yes.
The way to clean house is term limits, but the guys that you have to convince to do that are sitting there in Washington. How are we going to have term limits, and how can we get that passed?
Oh, okay. You asked sort of a catch-22 question. You said that you feel that the solution to our problems is term limits, but the guys who would have to pass that law are there and don't want their terms limited. Is that basically it? So again, after we've spent a lot of time trying to steer towards good news, you've put us back in the trough again. But Rick, that sounds like one of the topics that would bedevil you.
The only thing I like about the idea of term limits is that at least it suggests that there are structural reasons for our troubles. That it's not all bad people. But I don't see much difference. I don't see that somebody who's in his 6th term is that much worse than somebody who's in his 2nd or 3rd term. I don't think that's the big variable. Mm-hmm. If we want to change the system, let's get rid of single-member districts. Single-member districts are an outdated political technology. We're one of the few democracies that still use them. Let's have multi-member districts, and then we can have proportional representation of a kind. And that would put a lot more life and energy into our political system and get rid of a lot of the polarization that we've got. But good for term limits, for at least thinking one step beyond, it's those bad people.
Well, and I would also suggest a really vibrant, strong media. Yet again, the one thing that I think why people look to sometimes satirists and The Daily Show and people like Andy and us is you look at somebody like Todd Aiken, right? And when you hear what Todd Aiken said about legitimate rape and all that stuff, we're all like, how did this guy get elected? And it turns out he was elected 6 times. Now, and on the science committee.
On the science committee, yes.
And so
that was great.
why isn't somebody going, we have a science committee. Why don't we look to see who's on there? Oh, a guy who doesn't believe in science? That's an interesting story. Or just looking at candidates while they're running in a real way so that people can hear when they're total crackpots and go, maybe I don't want to vote for him.
Right.
I think that we just don't have that, and all of a sudden we've got Louis Gohmert, Michelle Bachmann, and all these people who are just fucking nuts.
Right.
Like really, it's just like you can't even say anything nice because they're just fucking nuts.
Okay. That was kind of a controversial position to take with this crowd, but
I know.
I admire your.
I know.
I admire your cojones.
I pushed the envelope.
Anyone up in the balcony have a question? I always feel like we neglect you up there. Anyone? Here. Okay.
Yes, what do you think about being people in the media? What do you think about the Koch brothers now wanting to buy up all newspapers, such as the Chicago Tribune and the
Okay, the question is,
First of all, you project so well. I love that.
yes, very good speaking up there. The question is, being people in the media, how do we feel about the Koch brothers, who I think you're probably familiar with, the Koch brothers trying to buy up newspapers, like the Chicago Tribune.
That seems like a smart idea.
Are they trying to buy like the Tribune company? Is that what they're trying to do?
Yeah, the LA Times and the Chicago Tribune and the Miami Herald, maybe. That's diabolically
So
clever of them. That would be a real national catastrophe for those papers, those papers, both of which actually, have a history. If you go back 30, 40 years, they might as well have been owned by the Koch brothers. But in the last 30 or 40 years, both of them have become great papers. And the Koch brothers, that's not stupid of them to think of doing that. I mean, they spent hundreds of millions of dollars trying to defeat Obama, and they didn't get anywhere. But they can spend, for a mere 600 million or so, they can get these great newspapers, and they don't care whether they make money with them or not.
yeah, it's just out there, hammering the information, and hammering the information online. It's like the paper itself isn't going to be as damaging as the viralness and the viral nature of finding the articles that are funded by the Koch brothers and passing them all over the place, because that stuff never goes away.
So the answer is we don't like that idea.
Yeah.
That's the answer. It's not a good idea. Yes, sir. Will the next civil rights excuse me?
What will the next civil rights movement be?
Oh, what will the next civil rights movement be in the U.S.? What will the next civil rights movement be? Is there
One that we haven't seen coming yet?
Do you have
an idea? Do you have I'd like to see
Corporate farmers?
I'd like to see Jews get more access to the media. I think that our voices have been stilled too long.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it's going to take. But
The
maybe
second homeless?
maybe a march. Second homeless is a good issue. I don't know. Do we have any nominations for civil rights? I feel like we've got a few civil rights movements that still have some work to do, like it seems to me. Don't you think we still have maybe the old civil rights movement still have some. I mean, Rand Paul was saying that he would have voted against the Voting Rights Act or the Civil Rights Act? Civil rights. So if you still have people like that, I'd say we still have some work to do on those good old-fashioned civil rights movements that we've got. That's just my view. We've got a couple more. Yes.
What do you think about the situation in Guantanamo?
What do I think about the situation in Guantanamo? Interesting, Guantanamo is the only place name we've mentioned tonight that did not get applause. We got Cleveland, Minnesota. I think it's atrocious that it's still going. It's sort of like, the one thing to compare it to is like, some of those
The
game
Oxygen
shows.
Network.
Well, yeah, or like The Price is Right. It's like, that's still on. It's just. I know that Obama came in and that was like his first thing. That was what he was going to do on day one, right? He was going to close Guantanamo. And there are only like about 166 prisoners? Is that true?
Yes, and about 60 of them are ready to die because they've been on a hunger strike.
Right.
It's sort of like Obama's version of what Clinton went through with Don't Ask, Don't Tell. He came in, he wanted to do this, and then he was just frustrated and stopped by Congress. And that's a case where it was really kind of disgusting to see all these Republicans, mostly Republicans, but some Democrats too, saying, "Oh, we're too frightened to have these terrorists in a maximum security prison anywhere near us." I mean, that's disgraceful.
Right.
And even I find it a little hard to believe that Obama couldn't have done more on this one. I think he's getting ready to do more. Whatever there is, whatever he can do through executive action, whatever he can do that isn't absolutely forbidden by Congress, he ought to do.
Okay. Well, I think we have time for one more question, and my only preference is I would like this to be a question that kind of elevates the whole evening. And if it in some way could, synthesize everything we've said, but also maybe make us see the world and ourselves in a different way. So that, you know what I mean? So that when we go out, like, colors will look different and the air will smell different. So anything like that. And also, it can't be about Israel. Right? Up there in the balcony, yes.
I was wondering if there's any way that we could impress upon the people in Congress and the Senate to focus on leading rather than campaigning, as opposed to shortening the campaign cycle for the presidency to maybe a year before the presidency versus the day after one president has been elected. So do you think there's any way we can
we have only 12 seconds left to answer. But I want you to know something. That is the topic I will be addressing on the first episode of my show on Taxi TV. Thank you very much. Thank you. God bless. Thank you.